Alright everybody, cheers for tuning in. I thought I'd do a wee video before I go and tune into the telly. And before I go and do that, I want to talk about something that I done when I was a young boy, that I spoke about in Ricky's video, which was when I absconded for care law. So when I was 15, as I explained in that video, I abducted two social workers who were taking me from my girlfriend's house to an overnight kind of respite centre until they could figure out what to do with me. It's not like they could give you a weekend, or you're 15, you can't go to the jail, you're not old enough, it's illegal. So what happened was, as I explained in the video, I had been drinking. I was intending to hurt somebody. That somebody being a guy. So I was 15 at this time. This guy was 18, 19, and I was going with this lassie for Castlemilk, and every time I'd phone her, this guy would be in the background shouting, "I'm shagging your ball, blah 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 blah," and I was just not putting up with that. So I was staying with her at the time. I ended up staying with her after this, right? So I was staying with my gran, and every time I'd phone her, he'd be shouting shit in the background because he was pals with her older brother. So a year later, I ended up like staying with her and her mum and blah blah blah, and he stayed doing Castlemilk Drive, and I would sneak out at fucking 12 at night, 1 in the morning. I'd slash his tyres and then brick his windscreen, all that shit. And he knew it was me that was doing it because obviously it got back to my girlfriend's parents, but I wasn't really giving a fuck, man. I was gone by this time, you know what I mean? I was emotionally and mentally gone, do you know what I mean? To me, this was the higher purpose, the getting at him, right? So me and my cousin had actually went to his place of work to confront him, and this happened a few times. He worked in a wallpaper shop in Govan Hall, and we'd went down a couple of times and he wasn't there and all this kind of shit. So I was actively seeking him out to hurt this boy, right? Long time ago, obviously, like fucking mid-90s and all that, so long time ago. But my point is, on the night that I was arrested for abducting these social workers, he was the person that I was intending to hurt that night. I was sitting in the bedroom, drinking alcohol, and he was across the road helping somebody fix a motor, so he didn't auntie. My girlfriend was for Castlemilk, and he was across the road helping his cousin fix a fucking motor. And I'm just sitting like he didn't know I was watching him, but I'm that type of guy. Like I would learn everything about somebody before I would target them, which is it's the kind of only way to do it, if you ask me. Do you know what I mean? If I was like to kind of engage in such behaviour at any age, the only way to do it is to find out everything you can. To me, that's the dangerous people you need to watch out for, because they'll learn what time you get up, what time you go to bed, what time you leave the house, what time you get in the house, what time you fucking go to Subway, what time you go to Greg's, whatever. And my girlfriend's mum just knew because I started arguing with her and all that. So she ended up phoning social workers, and this was like 12 o'clock at night because I couldn't get a hold of my gran or nothing. So they've come out to get me, and I had a kitchen knife in my jacket, right? So I pulled it out on them in the motor and forced them to drive to my pal's house, which was near my gran's. and the police were already there looking for somebody else just by sheer chance. They were there looking for somebody, and the social workers flagged the police down, but I had been threatening them in the motor and saying I'll fucking kill you if you say anything and all that shit. No gonna lie, right? It was being really kind of psychologically terrorising them, right? And the cops obviously arrested me, took me to the police station, went to Glasgow Sheriff Court, but because I was a schoolboy, it's illegal for me to go to a prison. So what happened was there was no beds in a secure unit, so they took me to Berlin, right? And I'm not gonna lie, right? This was before all this G4S shit. You would just be chained in pairs, like, so you'd be chained to that guy and chained to that guy and all this shit, right? And I remember sitting thinking, like, I'm going to the job centre, I'm going to meet contacts, I'm going to further this violent reputation that I was trying to build as a 15-year-old kid. And got to Berlin, was locked in what you call a dug box, right? It's basically a fucking cupboard, right? I was locked in there for about 4 or 5 hours or something. And because there was no spaces in a secure unit, I had to go to Long End for a week, right? Now Long End but back then was basically like Pullman, but it was all remands. There was no convicted in it. So I went there for a week, and then there was a space in Kerlaw, which was a secure unit. It wasn't part of the prison system, it was part of the local authority, right? Basically a kid's prison, right? So I got took there, and right away I could tell I wasn't fitting in, to put it mildly. There was lassies in there, and they kind of all stuck to these three boys who, if you want to say, were kind of looked at as don't want to say top boys, but the dominant ones, right? One was for Paisley, one was for Glasgow, and one was for Ayrshire. Now, there was three lassies who were their girlfriends, and I could just tell that they were looking at me as if I was upsetting the balance of fucking power, whatever the fuck it was, right? And I didn't even feel like this in Long again, funnily enough, right? And one night I was arguing with one of the lassies in my unit, and the staff, I bounced up and flung a fucking slipper at her. Flung a slipper, and it hit her in the face, right? And fucking the staff all just rugby tackled me and put these things called wrist locks on us, so it's like pressure points. See, when they hold you like this, it's sore as fuck if they put the pressure on, right? And I was screaming, right? No like fucking lassie scream, but like fucking scream like that, right? So I've had me on the flare, right? And one of the lassie's boyfriends just walked past and says, "Check the fucking state of that dafty," and I'm like, that's just set me right off, right? And I'm like, "Wow, I'll fucking kill you, blah 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 blah." So they've put me in the separation cell, which is just a concrete cell with like a slit like that on the wall so they can look in and monitor you. And they've put me back in my normal cell later on that night, and somebody shouted through, the guy who was shouting at me when I was on the ground, he was saying he wants to attack me tomorrow. He's attacked me tomorrow, right? And I'm like, oh, very good. Excuse me, but I just knew he's got these other two guys glued to his fucking hip. There's no way he's attacking me on his own. I wasn't taking a chance, even if he wasn't there. So, as I said in the video with Big Ricky, what I done was I was trying to get a pool ball to put in a sock, and couldn't source a pool ball, so I took the wrapper off a bar of Imperial leather soap, put it inside a sock, tied a knot in the end of it, put it down my waistband, right? And I went to education the next morning. I could fucking smell this atmosphere, right? it was almost as if the staff knew as well, I don't know, and they were just allowing it to happen. I'm not saying that was the case, but it felt like that, right? Just felt like they were allowing this to go ahead, right? And I was just like, fuck this, man. So I walked up to education and everybody was just pure all standing in this big kind of group, all staring right at me. And the boy who was like shouting at me when I was being restrained, he just ran over and done this, right? And see, as soon as he done that, I just went buff and just whacked him right in between the eyes with a fucking bar of soap and a sock, and got bent up, all that shit, blah blah blah. So they left me alone after that, but the whole point of me saying that was this was the kind of start of the way I was conducting myself in Kerlaw. Obviously it wasn't always like this, but if anybody, it's what I've said before, if anybody even like spoke to me in what I perceived to be the wrong tone of voice, challenging me, speaking down to me, anything at all, it would have just set me right off. It was like there was a nuclear reactor inside me, but it wasn't nuclear power, it was anger and it was rage, right? And that was powering my behaviour, it was directing my behaviour. It was almost like my anger and my rage was like, see, like how you make a puppet dance? Well, my puppet master was the anger and the rage, right? And there was several incidents I was involved in Kerlaw, and I've obviously said in Ricky's video how I was presenting myself like the kiddie, nobody will fuck with me, nobody will touch me, blah blah blah. And when I got into a few incidents with staff members, they were saying, oh, you'll no be the big man in Pullman. So I asked to go to Pullman. I officially asked, I want to go there, which might have been their plan. They might have been doing that just because they knew I had this self-perception that was all about ego. So maybe it was their way of getting rid of me because they just thought I was a pain in the arse. I don't know. It could be that way. It might not be. But anyway, I put in for a move, and before the move, what happened was I asked. So I had to apply to the Scottish office, which is the Scottish Government, like the Justice Department, if you want to call it that. And they approved it because we had to have a meeting with them every year because I was a CYP, Convicted Young Person, Section 208 it's called, right? And what happened was I asked, am I allowed to visit my sick grandmother before I go? And they said aye, but the reason that I was asking for that was because there was this area where this scheme that we were really unfriendly with, and they had assaulted my brother and my cousin just before this, and they had assaulted me in the past as well. We've assaulted somebody more that kind of shit. And what happened was then because your phone calls are not monitored in Kerlaw, whereas in Pullman and in fucking Shorts and all that, your phone calls are all recorded, so they can go back and just put in the date and listen to these phone calls and hear you saying X, Y, and Z. But in Kerlaw it wasn't like that because obviously it's a home, it's illegal. You're no a prisoner. You're a fucking a convicted child, whatever. And my brother was telling me how these boys had done this and that, and I was like, I'm coming up there on this date. It was November 1998, right? I can't mind the date, it was like the 20th or something. I was like, I'm coming up there, we're doing the off and we're doing them, right? He's like, that, right? So we went up to Pullman, me and two members of staff for Kerlaw went up to Pullman, we get shown around like a tour, and then we were supposed to go back to Kerlaw that day, but before that we were stopping at my gran's to see my gran, go back to Kerlaw, and then the next day go to Pullman to get fucking sent into Pullman, right? So what happened was on the way back from Pullman that day, we went to my gran's in Whittlebum obviously, and we're sitting talking away and blah blah blah, and then fucking me and my brother I just said I was going to the toilet. That was my signal, and my brother followed me. Like I says, I'll kid her, I'm going to the toilet. I'll walk to the front door and you just wait 5 minutes and follow me. We went out. We done the off at the house. We went through the pubby park, down to halfway, met a couple of boys. Went back up to Waterburn. We're sitting doing buckets, getting drunk, all that shit, right? And fucking the boy for halfway that I was with, right? Me, him and his girlfriend ended up walking back down to halfway, right? But see on the way walking down there, we're walking through the pubby park, there's this fucking helicopter with a searchlight above Whitlaburn, and I'm looking and going, no think nothing, you know what I mean? Got to halfway, his dad wasn't in, so my pal kicked it was a bottom flat, but there was a veranda you could climb over the banister, and he's forced his way in through the veranda, and his dad's came back like, how the fuck did you get in, and da. But I'm just sitting drinking, man, I'm not giving a fuck, I'm sitting thinking, man, I would be behind my door now if I was in there, yeehaw, blah, but I'm drunk for the first time in a fucking year, all that shit, and just sitting talking away and all that shit. And we're just sitting, right? And I swear to God, I thought I heard, see, like a walkie-talkie, like the static. And I thought, nah, nobody knows where I'm at. Then all felt, buff. the door going off the fucking hinges, right? But it's a big long hallway, and down there's the front door, and up here's the living room door, so it's a long hallway, right? My pal's dad's ran to the living room door and opened it, and I'm watching him at an angle, right? But see, as soon as he's opened this living room door, I could just tell this guy got a fright. And they're like, fucking stay there, freeze, fucking stay there, don't move, not. And he was like, the guy was panicking, right? Which was making me fucking panic. See, if I wasn't drinking, I had that shit myself, right? And they're like, name everybody in the house. So he's went through all the names, right? But he said my name last. It was as if he wasn't even wanting to say my name. But see, my pal, whose house it was, he went and looked out the front living room window and he's like, Chris, they've all got guns. They're holding shields against the window. They were holding shields against the window. See, the ballistic shields or something. I don't fucking know, right? And it was as if like, he was looking at me as if to say, how am I going to get you out of this? But there was no way of getting out of this, right? So they done that. When he said my name last. He was rhyming off all the names in the house, and then he said mine last, and they said, tell Chris McPherson to come to the front door, put his hands behind his head, and walk backwards, right? So I've walked to the front of the door like this, right? And then they're like, turn around, right? And then start walking back the way towards them with my back to them. And I was walking pure slow, and they've got they're pressing, see when I've got to the front door and I've stepped to the front step, right, they're just pure pressing these shields in. It's as if I was fucking riddled with Ebola or something. The way they know how all these, know how like you see the mad riot cops in Belfast and all, they were dressed like that, like stormtroopers with the Velcro fucking arm guards and the fucking everything, man. It was quite a sight for a 16-year-old boy anyway. And they got me into the police van and put me in a stress position, right? And drove like that all the way to the Aikenhead Road police station, right? And see when we got to Aikenhead Road police station, see when the back of the van opened up in the car park, the two doors opened up in the van, and all you saw was hundreds of cops all standing in the car park. Swear to God, thank fuck I'd had a few inners to fucking steadies, because I had been shaking like a leaf. No gonna lie, man. That was fucking mental. And I ended up getting charged with attempt to defeat the ends of justice, because I was serving a jail sentence and they looked at it like it was an escape and all this pish, but it wasn't an escape, it was absconding. I didn't break out of an institution, that's an escape. I'd absconded for custody, do you know what I mean? But what ended up happening was one of the cops told me that somebody in care law had basically said this is what they told me, right? The reason that they had sent that kind of response out was because somebody in Kellos, and I'm talking about somebody high up in Kello, no like the workers on the ground, somebody who was like in charge said he's got to kill somebody, and that wasn't the case. But do you know what I mean? So don't know where they got that from, but it's what it is, and it's fucking done now, done and dusted, innit? But I got an indictment for that. I got 3 months added on to the end of my 4 years, and I pled guilty to it anyway, so I'd probably get longer if I didn't. But fucking, that was nuts. And the funny thing is, when the podcast that Ricky had done with me had been published, there was people who remembered that were all going on and going, not on the YouTube but on my Facebook, because I posted it to my Facebook, and they were like, fucking hell, I remember that day the cops had sectioned off the street saying getting the house, there's an ongoing incident and all that. And I remember my grand saying she thought it was like the SAS. She said to the cops, did they send this many cops out to arrest Al Capone? God bless her, know what I mean? Fucking her 16-year-old grandman, what the fuck must she have been thinking, do you know what I mean? Like, fucking hell. But it's just mad to even bring that back up, because you would never see that. No. It's just fucking, it's just crazy. But it links into my self presentation at that time, like as what I said before. There was almost nobody within a certain category who I wouldn't have had the potential to hurt, like people like myself, but for other areas, or people who were what thought they were bits of boys that were like kind of being cheeky, what I perceived to be cheeky, threatening me, anything at all, do you know what I mean? And it's what I said, it's all about feeling like that inside. It's like you feel that's where ego comes from. I don't give a fuck what MD says. Ego comes from feeling like that. On the outside, you think you're like this, but on the inside, you're like that. That's the truth, do you know what I mean? You don't need a psychology degree to know that. Maybe you do, I don't fucking know, but that's just me speaking from personal experience, do you know what I mean? And now don't want to say self-assured, I'm more self-assured than what I was, do you know what I mean? I don't have an ego like that, or feel that I need to avenge every wee fucking slight tone of voice that I perceive to be demeaning or whatever, because at the end of the day, do you know what I mean? I feel I don't have anything to prove, do you know what I mean? And it's not worth getting into the trouble as well, because what's the point? I have shit to live for, shit to lose. I didn't have nothing to lose before. Prison and freedom were the same thing to me. They meant nothing. Didn't appreciate prison, didn't appreciate freedom. They meant absolutely nothing. It didn't matter if I was in one or the other. They felt like the same thing to me back then, which sounds quite kind of contradictory, but it's the truth. But obviously now, like, I'm a lot older. I'm not 15 anymore. I'm fucking 41. Do you know what I mean? I have a life of sorts compared to what I'm used to. I have my son full time. I'm a single dad, a single parent. Do you know what I mean? And life has been getting better. Do you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, like, I'm not one of these guys that would ever let somebody put their hands on me. But at the same time, I'm not going to proactively seek like people out to hurt and all that. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just not going to end well for me, whatever way you want to look at it. Do you know what I mean? So I thought I'd come on and kind of talk about that the night, because obviously doing that video with Ricky, that was like trying to cram my life story into an hour and a half video. and I'd spoke about some things on it, and then I had people messaging me and all that kind of shit. So I thought it's helping me talking about stories, and kind of elaborating on things that I've already spoke about it. So it's like I'm not just coming on and talking about the time when fucking coppers all turned up in a scheming canvas lang to fucking drag me out of house with the fuck. Well, I had terror at the time, you know what I mean? They dragged me out the fucking house with the hell, you know what I mean? Oh fucking hell! You wouldn't have believed this if you fucking seen it. A fucking 16-year-old boy, man. See now, they would get the fucking jail for doing that. Do you know what I mean? It's fucking crazy, man. But that's what it is, innit? Do you know what I mean? See if you're presenting that kind of risk, or if they perceive you to be that kind of risk. Do you know what I mean? I would say the same myself. Send out who you need to send out, because if somebody else is at risk, if somebody's kid, somebody's bra, do you know what I mean? Unless you're as much at risk as them, do you know what I mean? Then I think, well, do you know what? It's like two cowboys fighting each other, innit? But fucking hell, I thought I'd kind of come on and talk about that tonight, because my kid goes to karate, and he's got a grading tomorrow. He's a brown belt, so we're up early every day anyway, but that's a to do tomorrow, do you know what I mean? So and he'll pass it. So I just kind of got the itch to do a wee video about that, because it's just like, it's a funny story, but it wasn't funny at the time, man. Like, it wasn't funny at the time. I think that must have traumatised my fucking gran and Manny, man. Know what I mean? Because my gran and Manny were living together at the time. Because Manny's, her kid's dad had just died, and I see now, right? If I was ever in prison and I had the chance to do the off, and it was in like my gran, I would end up no doing it, because it was their house. Like, I can't bring that kind of heat on them, do you know what I mean? But see, when you're that age, you're 15, 16, you do not give a fuck. Well, at least I didn't, do you know what I mean? And it just shows you how much my brain must have matured for the days, just being absolutely fucking pickled. Just, but it's what I've said in that podcast with Ricky. It's just, that was my anger and my trauma speaking 100%. So uh, I got that sentence, and I got remanded in November 97, got sentenced in March 98, got out in October 2000, got recalled June 2001, back out February 2002. So I done most of that sentence, do you know what I mean? Then ended up getting another one, but that's another story for another night, you know what I mean? So hope you're having a good Saturday night, and I'll speak to you next time I'm on, so have a good gin and speak to you later.